Hello and welcome to IELTS Online Classes with Banke. In today's lesson, you are going to learn how to choose the correct answers in true, false, not given questions in the IELTS reading module. Of course, you know that there are four modules: IELTS Listening, IELTS Reading, IELTS Writing, and IELTS Speaking. I want you to know that you can pass IELTS at first attempt, and don't let anyone make you scared, provided you are ready to practice, put in the work, and prepare. Recall that if you fail to plan, you've planned to fail. So let's dive right into it. True, false, not given questions are the type of questions in the IELTS reading module. You will be given a set of paragraphs and you'll be given questions. Your task is to check whether the statements, which I'll call the question statements, agree with the information given in the text. Now, the answer is true if the statement agrees with the information completely, 100%. The answer is false if the statement contradicts the information given in the passage. And the answer is not given if there is no information on this. So let's look at the following examples, and then you will get a classwork, and then you'll be able to implement what you have learned. So the question here says more children are injured when walking or cycling to school than when traveling by car. More children are injured when walking or cycling to school than when traveling by car. And question 2 says children who are driven to school are more ready to learn than those who walk or cycle. Now, this is the passage that you will check for your answer, right? So this is what it typically looks like. You will have the passage and you have the questions. So what steps should you take to choosing the correct answer? The first thing I would tell you to do is to read the question first. You will not have all the time to go through the passages. So what I would usually advise is that you read the question first. Next, identify the focus sentence in the passage. Remember that in the instruction, you are to check if the question statement agrees with the information given in the text. That's the passages, the various paragraphs. Here you can see there are 3 paragraphs, right? So you have to look for the focus sentence. That's what you will use to compare with the statement, that is the question statement. Look at it again. Identify the focus sentence in the passage, then make comparisons to decide whether your answer is true, false, or not given. So let's look at this example. The question says more children are injured when walking or cycling to school than when traveling by car. This is the question here. So here's the question. More children are injured when walking to school, when walking or cycling to school than when traveling by car. So let's look at the passage. You quickly read through this passage and find the focus sentence. When you pick one or two keywords from the question talked about cycling, children, car. You can see car, children. So when you look at the paragraph, you can see here it reads, over the last 20 years, the number of children being driven to school in England has doubled. national data suggests that 1 in 5 cars on the road at 8:50 a.m. is engaged in the school run. Children are subject to up to 3.9 times more pollution in a car that is standing in traffic than when walking or cycling to school. Now, remember that there is this part in the question that talked about walking or cycling to school, right? Let me see. Walking or cycling to school. And you can see here, somewhere here, children are subjects. Can I highlight that to you? Let me use red. So here you see children are subjects. When you look at this place, 3.9 times more pollution in a car that is standing in traffic than when walking or cycling to school. Than when walking or cycling to school. You can see they only talked about the fact that children are subject to up to 3.9 times more pollution, whereas the question was talking about more children being injured. So there is no information in the passage and we cannot make assumptions. We only have to work with what is given, the information given in the passage. Therefore, when we compare these question statements, remember again, this is the question statement. We compare it with the focus sentence we have identified in the passage. We can compare it and come to the conclusion that there is no information given. Therefore, our answer is not given. I hope you are following. Now, let's quickly move on to the next question. Next question is question 2. Question number 2. Question number 2 reads, children who are driven to school are more ready to learn than those who walk or cycle. Children who are driven to school are more ready to learn than those who walk or cycle. So the next step, remember the steps. Step 1, read the questions first. Step 2, find a focus sentence in the passage. And step 3, make comparisons to decide whether the answer is true, false, or not given. Now, having read the question, you would notice that in the last line of the paragraph, it has been noted. Let me show you where that is. It has been from these points. It has been noted. Yeah. Can you see that? So it has been noted by teachers that children engaging in active travel arrive at school more alert and ready to learn. Whereas the question statement says children who are driven to school are more ready to learn than those who walk or cycle. Children who are driven to school. But the focus sentence is saying that it has been noted that children engaging in active travel involves walking or cycling and not being driven in cars, chauffeur driven. So that point of contradiction, can you see the focus sentence? It has been noted by teachers that children engaging in active travel arrive at school more alert and ready to learn. Whereas the question statement says children who are driven to school. So, children who are driven to school is the point of contradiction. Children who are driven to school. That's the point of contradiction, right? And we don't want contradictions. So it will be safe to say that the answer is false. For false, there will always be that point of contradiction between the question statements and the focus sentence. Can you see that? So now you should be able to do the next exercise. You will have 1 minute per question. I will set the timer for you from here, and you have 4 questions. You have to answer them in 4 minutes. I always tell my students to work under timed conditions. So I will show you the next question. Look at the next question. Question 3. Every year, the council gathers information about travel to schools. Every year, the council gathers information about travel to schools. So let's scroll up and try to find the focus sentence. Jot it down on your sheet of paper. Once you have jotted it down, you can now make your comparisons. Once your time is up, I'm going to scroll to the next question. So the question again is, every year the council gathers information about travel to schools. Every year the council gathers information about travel to schools. So that's that. You must have found your focus sentence now. Now we move to the next question. The next question says, the council is disappointed with the small reduction in the number of cars taking children to school. The council is disappointed with the small reduction in the number of cars taking children to school. The council is disappointed with the small reduction in the number of cars taking children to school. Now, come scout for the focus sentence. Once you find the focus sentence, just jot it down and then go to the last step, which is to make your comparisons. Let me scroll back to the question so that you can recall it. So oftentimes you have to keep checking the question from time to time. And note that the answers are usually arranged in chronological order. We are on question 4, right? Question number 4. Okay, now it's time to move on to the 5th question. The number of children in schools has risen in recent years. The number of children in schools has risen in recent years. The number of children in schools has risen in recent years. of children in schools has risen in recent years. Let's quickly check it again. The number of children in schools has risen in recent years. Okay, so look for the focus sentence, jot it down. Right, now let's go to the last question. Parents can get help with paying for their children to travel to school by public transport. Parents can get help with paying for their children to travel to school by public transport. Parents can get help with what? With paying for their children to travel to school by public transport. So your task is to look for the focus sentence. Look for the focus sentence and jot it. Let's look at the question again. Parents can get help with paying for their children to travel to school by public transport. Parents can get help. All right, time up. So what you're going to do is to put the comments about your put the comments. I want you to comment about your answers. Here are the answers. Okay, so you should comment your focus sentences, and that will be it for today. I'll see you in the lesson.